This is a review over the third 6 weeks, for the third 6 weeks SFA. Right here we have our first problem, and it wants to know the dependent quantity. We need to remember that the dependent is the y. So independent, let me move this out of here. Independent is the x, dependent is the y. Okay, the other thing I'd add to that is that the domain, even though it doesn't ask you on this one, that the domain is x and the range is y. So up here, the dependent, the end result. After you go bowling, what's the end result? The end result is the amount charged. Here's the x, here's the y. So the dependent quantity is amount charged. The independent is the x. That is the number of games bowled. Now it says, what are the domain and range for the situation? Domain right here. Let's see, if we want to talk about domain and range, we can just say that the domain, right now, the domain is the number of games, and the range is the amount charged. Oh, there we go. Write a statement that represents the relationship between the two quantities. Well, one of them that we've always started with is y depends on x. Well, y is the amount charged, so the amount charged depends on the number of games bowled. Oh, I didn't spell bowled right now, did I? Silly me. Looked like bowled. Bowled. What is the amount charged for each game bowled? Well, when it's talking about each game, you need to find delta y over delta x. You need to find your coefficient. Right here, it's going to be 550 is delta y, and delta x, it increases by 2. And if you take 550 divided by 2, you get 275. Is that right? 275? Sure is. So 275 is how much each game bowled costs. To rent the shoes, if you take 275 times 1 game, you get 275. What do you have to do to that to get to 475? You have to add 2. That is your constant. That is how much it's going to cost to rent the shoes. So now to write my equation, I'm going to have y equals 275x plus 2. Is the situation continuous or discrete? Remember, discrete means whole numbers. Continuous means that it can be fractions and decimals. In this case, it is going to be discrete. And how do I know? Because I can't go and just bowl 5 frames of a game and only pay for that. If you bowl 5 frames, you're still paying for a whole game. Because you can't bowl and pay for only maybe 3 frames. You're going to pay for a whole game or not. Now remember, continuous does not mean that it goes on forever. Discrete means that it is whole numbers, that we can't break it apart. And continuous means that it can be decimals and fractions. So like continuous, it would have to be like if you're talking about people. 1 person, two people. Continuous cannot be people because you can't have 1.5 friends. You're either going to have, it's going to be discrete. You're either going to have 1 friend, 2 friend, or 3 friends. The next one, it says Katie has $5 in her savings account. Oh, I know. We're trying to figure out which one represents the situation. Now, this one's tough because it's kind of tiny here. There's my y-intercept. It is 0, 5. Then you need to figure out your slope. And I'm going up 5 and over 1. 5 over 1 is 5. So my equation will be 5x plus 5. Now, these are the, let me cover up these other ones. These are my 4 choices. And it talks about Kent has $5 in his savings account. Well, that could be it. The starting amount right here is $5. Hank has 0. Nope, it's not that because he's not starting at 0. Now, this says that Kent has $5 and he's spending $5 a week. Well, if he's spending it, this would be decreasing. And what is my line doing right now? It's increasing. It's going up. So this cannot be the right answer. The next says that Mike has $5, but he is adding $10 a week. Well, that's not right because my slope is 5. My answer should be A. It says complete the following based on the graph and the situation described in number 2 above. Okay, which represents the dependent quantity in the situation? They're talking about, let me go back up here and let's highlight this for a second. They're talking about this right here. Okay, what is the dependent quantity? The dependent is the y. It's the end result. The end result is the amount of money in her savings account. The independent is the x. What is it that she's doing? I mean, like, what is, she's adding money into her account, but how often? There's the rate. That's going to tell me that the rate is going to be my slope right here. And what am I multiplying by here? It's $5, and this is each week. So the independent quantity is the number of weeks. Then it says write an equation to represent the situation. Well, I already did that up there. I went y equals 5x plus 5. It's then asking me what is a reasonable domain and range for this situation. Situation means this problem that's highlighted. It's going to be, now, so in this case, a reasonable domain is going to be all positive real numbers. Well, and I guess I could say all positive whole numbers. Because you're talking about dollars. I mean, that could be true for the domain and the range. What I mean is, why can't they be negative? Can you have a negative amount of weeks? No. Can you have a negative amount of money? No. You could have, 2 cents, 3 cents. I mean, technically, if you really wanted to talk about it, the domain would be starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and going up by a whole number of weeks because you're only making a deposit each week. The range would start at 5. That was the initial, and it would go up by 5 each time. 15, 20, like that if you wanted to be more specific. What it wants to know down here is what would be a reasonable domain and range for the function and why are they different? The function means just if I was talking about this equation, not thinking that it means anything about depositing money into an account. When it's of a function, your answer is going to be all real numbers. And sometimes we write it like this. You have 2 lines and it looks like an R. That's the symbol for all real numbers. That means that if I put this in the calculator, what numbers would come up? Well, they'd be positive and negatives. And if you're talking about just the function, just the basic numbers, you can have any and all of the numbers. The next one right here, which portion of the graph represents a period in which Jose is traveling the fastest? Now, when they're traveling the fastest, you're looking for a steep line. Well, in this case, it is section C. And what is the rate of change? What is delta y over delta x? Right here, I'm starting at 60, and I'm going all the way up here to 240. That is right there. That's 180. And then I'm going over 1, 2, over 2. So I have 180 and over 2, which is 90. Woo, they're going fast. This is 90 miles per hour. Then, which portion of the graph is he traveling the slowest? Well, is he traveling in B and D? What's happening on that flat line? Okay, so he's not traveling in B and D, so the only other one I have is A. And A, he's going 60 miles in 1, 2, 3 hours. 60 divided by 3 is 20. So he's going 20 miles per hour. I wonder what they're doing. All right. Use inequality symbols to state a reasonable domain and range of the graph. Okay, so my domain is right here. It's the x. The domain starts at 0, and x is in the middle, and it goes all the way out here till 10 hours. Your symbols are going to point to the left, and you're going to have the equal to bar underneath there, because they start at 0 and end at 10. Now my range is my y. It starts here at 0, and it goes, does it go all the way up to 300? The graph does, but not my data. My data only goes up to 240, so I have from 0 to 240. And you're going to take your symbols and point them. There is your domain and range. Next, it says which statement is true, and we have the function y equals 2x plus 8. Now, the first thing I would go through and do is this. I'm going to look at all this information right here. Dependent variable, and talk about, look at this. Okay, so let's look at these first. I know that the independent variable is x, and the dependent is y. The dependent variable x, that is not true. The dependent variable is y. Independent variable x, yes. Independent variable y, no. Dependent variable y, yes, that is correct. So now, to find the rest of this, we're going to go into y equals, and then we're going to put in there 2x plus 8. And I'm going to press second graph. And let's look at this table. Actually, let me go back to 0 here. Okay. The first one up here says the independent variable x is 8 more than double the dependent. All right. Is x, is that double, is that bigger than y? No, it is not. This one says that the y variable is 8 more than double the independent. Double the 2 times 1 is 2, plus 8 is 10. The next one, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 8 is 12. Yes, my answer is D. Next one. Okay, complete the following tables based on the information above. All right, we're going to have, this is going to be my figure number and the number of blocks. So right up here, my figure number 1, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 blocks. Figure number 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Figure number 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I've got 1 and 5, 2 and 7, 3 and 9. Now, what are they increasing by? What would the fourth one be? It would be 11. The fifth one would be 13. So if I, instead of writing it horizontally, I'm going to write it vertically. So I've got figure number as my x and the number of blocks as my y. So I have 1 and 5, 2 and 7, 3 and 9, 4 and 11. Now it says, what is the coefficient? The coefficient, what's another name for the coefficient? Starts with an S. Slope. What's another one? Starts with an R. There's a phrase. Rate of change. And delta y over delta x. So right here I'm going to go plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. That's delta y. Delta x plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So I have delta y over delta x. 2 over 1 is 2. That is my coefficient. Next, they want to know my constant. Well, if I go and build my table out here, I have 1 and 5. If I put the 2 there, I'm going to take 2 times 1, which is 2. And what do you have to do to 2 to get to 5? Add 3. That 3 is my constant. Another name for this constant is the y-intercept. And if I wanted to write it as a y-intercept, it would be 0, 3. Write the equation. Y equals 2x plus 3. Next, how many squares would there be in the 100th term? Well, you would take 2 times 100 plus 3. That would be 203. Give a verbal description for your equation. Well, we could do this a couple ways. We can say the dependent variable is 3 more than two times the independent variable. Next, I know, and I apologize for that right there. It's already, just did that when I copied. Okay, Janet's going on a ski trip. She already has 130 in her savings account. She plans on adding another 40 per week. Her trip is going to cost $970. What are the independent and dependent quantities? The independent is the thing that happens first. In this case, it's going to be the number of weeks. The dependent, which is the y, okay, the dependent is going to be the money. Write an equation to determine W, the number of weeks until she has enough money to go on her trip. Okay, so I would take 130, write an equation to determine how many weeks it would take until she, there's a couple ways you can write this equation. We could do, I'd do 970 equals 130 plus $40 per week. How many weeks until she has saved $650 in her account? Well, I'd go into my calculator and put in there 130 plus 40x. And then go second graph. And let's go see where y is. Oh, there it was, 650. It's 13. So 13 weeks. Write an equation that you could use to find out how much money she had after 5 weeks. Well, you would, let's see here. You could, what could you do here? We could have, I don't know. I mean, we would use the same equation. Oh, I guess I didn't. I wrote 4W and it should be 40W. I would use the same one. Let's go down here to how many weeks does it take her to save for her entire trip. If I go down here and look to see where Y is 970. Whoops, I missed it. It would be 21 weeks. Uh-oh, why is that up there? Okay, next one right here. You have these 4 different cards, and it wants the an equation for each student using the information from these cards. Brittany's equation right here. I know that equations are y equals mx plus b. M is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. Okay, so Brittany's equation right here, it already has the x and the y, or I mean not the x, the slope and the y-intercept. Y equals 2x minus 3. Next, Clint's, you have a slope, so I know it's y equals 2x. If I go and build a table here, and I put the point in there, -3, -3. Let me put the point 2, or put the slope 2 in there. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. What do you have to do to negative 6 to get to negative 3? Add 3. So my new y-intercept is plus 3. Now Kurt's equation, they give you 2 ordered pairs, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put in there 0, negative 3, and 2, 1. Do you notice anything about the points that they gave us? What information did they give us? Right here, they gave us the y-intercept already, so we do already know that. We need to find out the slope. I know that it's x minus 3. So here I'm going to do delta y, which is plus 4, and delta x plus 2. Delta y divided by delta x, 4 over 2 is 2. My slope is 2. After each student finished writing their equations on the card, which student's equations were the same as Jillian's? Well, this is the same, and these are all the same lines. So we have Brittany and Kurt. Let's see if I got my highlighter here. The answer would be that third one right there. What do you notice about all the two slopes? This line is different. The slope is the same. So what does that mean about these two lines? It means that they are parallel.